Thank you very much, Sir Rohlweder, for your introduction. Coming from Neuss, which is on the other side of the Rhine River, to have somebody from Düsseldorf introduce you is something special. You know, Düsseldorf for somebody from Neuss is what Lord Voldemort is. You know, actually you don't mention the name, so I'm very happy, and thank you very much for these very kind words, Senator Richard. Ken, Bob, it's wonderful to be here. It's wonderful to speak to the Assist family. To have a film by Paul Sanderson here is very moving, because I still have I'm very moved, I still have the letter of your father in my files where he said, "Dear Christoph, we have accepted you for this program." So it's when Bob asked me if I would come to give a speech here tonight, of course I said yes, because Assist, after all, was really one of the greatest things that happened in life. At the age of 16, to spend 1 year in the US is something really, really special. For those of you who are new, I see there are many from 19, at the time it was really something special. I just learned, Paul, from your film that in 1970 you met the students in JFK airport. A year later you thought that it's not really necessary, they can do it by themselves. So I arrived here, I had an airplane ticket from Pan Am. You know, the older ones know this was a US airline. And then a voucher for the Greyhound bus from New York. Now, there is no Greyhound bus going from JFK, I found that out. And so I had to get a bus, but I have to admit, it was told me it's not that easy. You have to see a way how to get to New York City. So I took this bus to Port Authority. I had 3 hours of time before I got the bus to Akron, Ohio. So I walked down 42nd Street. Now, 42nd Street in 71 was different. And 42nd Street, for somebody coming from Neuss, it was even more special. So it worked out. I never knew how American telephones worked. I was told you place a collect call to your family, and you tell them when you arrive with your Greyhound bus in Akron, Ohio. I managed that. And then the family picked me up, and I must say it was a wonderful family. At this time, before you went to school, you had 3 weeks of staying with the family, and the Grand family, I still remember that family was extremely nice and introduced me to the American way of life. And then I took part in the early soccer practice and got on the varsity team, and I was so proud to be that. So the year in the US really made, there was two major. One was my love to the US. The other one, actually then, this was the decisive year where later on, looking back, made me join the German diplomatic service and become diplomat. So I spent the junior year at Western Reserve Academy. This was my first stint in the US, and then 4 years later, as a junior, I came back to the US with another organization, and that was Rotary International. Now, Rotary International does something different from Assist. They ask you where you want to go. So they asked me, and I was a junior at a university in St. Gallen in Switzerland. I said, well, if they ask me, I want to go to Yale or Harvard or Columbia. And then they sent me to Georgia Southern College. I don't know if there's anybody in this room who knows Georgia Southern College in Statesboro, Georgia. It's a wonderful school, and the program is also wonderful, and it added to my experience of the US and the love to the United States. So when in 1980 I joined the German diplomatic service, I asked then where I could go, and one of the postings was Chicago, and I was sent to Chicago. Actually, at that time I had the title Vice Consul, and this is the best title you can ever have. So when you're later on other titles, but Vice Consul in Chicago was great. Actually, during this time, again, the older ones will remember the Chicago Bears won the Super Bowl, and you know, Gaylord Perry, Walter Payton, halfback, Jim McMahon, the quarterback, and so now I'm back in the US. I'm following the Bears now, and they are again, yeah, I think they can make it. They have a very good start this season. So, as Robert said before, I had my career, and then I was 12 years, the longest serving, as it would be said in the US, the longest serving national security advisor. And after 8 years, I actually wanted to stop, but then the chancellor asked me to stay longer and said, okay, we make a deal. I stay 4 more years, but then I get to pick where I want to go. And then for me, the pick was very clear. I wanted to go back to the US, and I wanted to go back to New York. Wanted to go to New York, the city where I first put my foot in 71. 42nd Street looks totally different today. But I must say, we love New York, and with all due respect to Washington, it is a fantastic city, and we are very, very grateful to have a chance to live in New York, live the American life again, and to be there with our children. So this was my last. This is my stint right now. We have been here 1 year. We'll stay 3 more years. We have a bit of work next couple of years because we will be in the Security Council. But we still want to enjoy the US during that time. And you already mentioned my wife, Ina, 20 years later, had a similar career. She came, admittedly, from a bigger city, from Cologne, but otherwise she had a similar CV, and she made it in her junior year at Suffolk Academy. Now, you said before that it's, this is general rule, you do it as a junior. My wife, Ina, somehow managed, against all assist rules, to participate in all the courses so that in the end she did get her graduation. And she didn't go back to high school, because with her graduation she went directly to university. She told me not to tell it, because now you may not get the... And maybe the State Department will not, again, deliver these visas, but she did it. Ina and I, we both share the love to the United States. You mentioned before also that I brought American ambassadors to my hometown Neuss, and to participate in the biggest Schützenfest in the world. And Phil Murphy was actually one of the guests, who is now the governor of New Jersey, and who was my best man when we married. So and then to complete it in a bit, Paul, in preparation of this weekend. Last weekend, I had to speak at Cambridge, and during this we went back to New York, and we passed through Suffolk Academy. And so we had a few hours there and looked at Suffolk Academy. It's a wonderful, wonderful place. And this was the moment when we decided that for our children, we will also apply for an assist scholarship when But I also said that I want to go back to Western Reserve Academy, the wonderful school I went to. I'm proudly wearing the tie of Western Reserve Academy, and I'll try to help you to get them back into the program. So what is so special about Assist? At the age of 16, you become independent. You become independent of your parents. You widen your horizon. You are ready for new ideas. And you leave when you then cross the Atlantic, wherever you come from. And by the way, I find it wonderful what you did in extending the program to people from Somaliland, or I had someone from Palestine I just met. I think it's wonderful that you do that. But you do get then really you get independent, and you leave everything behind. You come here with a very open heart. You come with an open mind, and you really pick up so many new views. And this is something, talking about independence, this is something again that today is a bit different. At the time, the older ones still remember, there were no mobile phones. So to be in touch with your family and your friends, you actually wrote letters. And during this time, I was in touch once with my parents on the phone. You know, at the time you had to call the operator, give the number, and then you have to throw quarters into the phone. And it's unimaginable how many quarters fit in such a phone. So this was the independence you get, and afterwards, you know, when you do, for the first time, you do your own laundry, you have to do your bed, everything. It's wonderful. It helps you for the rest of your life. The second thing is something that for somebody who loves sports is very special. This is what is very important. This is the sports. Actually, when I wrote my little notes, I first wrote sports and then academics. It should have been the other way around, but I keep in this way because it was just fantastic that you went out every afternoon. You went out on the field. You were playing soccer or doing track and field, or even during the winter there was no sports where I was any good at. So I started to try to play basketball. Even that was fun. I never, you know, there was, you know, Michael Jordan at Cleveland, so it was very, but never made it anywhere close. But what you know from the sport is this competitiveness, this motivation, this you know, you work together, you form a team. This fair play that it always plays, it's very important. And I think this is something that for us shaped us. My wife actually broke a school record in the long jump, and I didn't get was that well, but still the two. But this sports, we have been doing a lot of sports. Actually, we are training right now for in 3 weeks we're going to run the New York Marathon together, and we hope we will survive. Also, what is nice, when you didn't play your own sports, you were then following. I still remember we played soccer. Something like 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 1 o'clock, and at 3 o'clock, everybody went over to support the football team. And this team spirit, this spirit of the school, is something that really lasts. And you become afterwards engaged. You remain engaged. You become alumni, and you support the school in whatever it does. And this is something that is really, really special. So today I always support German soccer, but I still look at the newspapers and follow what do the American teams do that I like. So you can imagine that on Wednesday I was very disappointed when the New York Yankees lost to the Boston Red Sox there. But let me go to the academics. They were, of course, for somebody coming from Germany at the time, where you had like 12, 13 different fields, where you were learning from mathematics, biology, chemistry, language, everything. To go to SU were concentrated on fewer areas, fewer subjects, and you had to get adjusted to that. But at the same time, it was much more intense. I still remember there sometimes I still wake up in the middle of the night, not any longer, but at the time, in my English class in Germany, it took us about 1 year to read Golding's Lord of the Flies. Now, in the English class I had here, between September and December, we read about everything Hemingway has ever written. Immovable Feast, The Sun Also Rises, the short stories from The Bell Tolls, The Sun Also Rises, To Have and Have Not. I still remember that, and this was a nightmare. Somebody who was, actually, I don't know why I got this scholarship, because I had a C in English before getting. And then the teacher tells you, I said, well, first couple of pages, well, for tomorrow, read the first 100 pages of A Movable Feast. I don't know if everyone has read that. It was a nightmare. It was really a nightmare. But somehow, I passed it, and he was, the English teacher was also soccer coach, so this helped, I think. So we passed that, and the academics, as I said, they were very demanding. They were very small classes. This also was very motivating, and you developed this personal relationship to the teachers, which was very, very special. And the teachers were always ready to help. They invite you to your home, to their home, and there was. I still remember the German teacher who became at Western Reserve Academy, who became kind of a substitute father for me. I spent much of time there, and then he employed me as substitute teacher in his class. But it was a wonderful relationship. The Latin teacher. I was bad in Germany in English, but even worse in Latin. So it was, but then the Latin teacher made me, to a certain degree, love Latin, certain degree. But we also became friends, and he also, with his whole family, visited me in Neuss in Germany afterwards. And then there was another teacher whose name I will not mention because he may get into trouble, because he was one who understood a German of my age, 16 years, because for Americans this is not unimaginable, but as a boy of 16 years in Germany, you have a couple of beers over the weekend. And so this teacher understood that for a German 16-year-old, a glass of beer is as important as breast milk for a baby. So I got, but I can, if you're concerned about this, I can tell you the amount of beer I had was far less of what is apparently acceptable here to become So, but we are not going for the Supreme Court. Yeah. To come back, the year in Hudson, Ohio, at Western Reserve Academy really opened my mind. New experiences. You start to accept different point of views. You hear things that you have never heard before. Just one example: my roommate was something for a German. 1971 was a Jew, and for a German living in a small German city. 71 was not that long after the Second World War. For the first time, I met a Jew. For the first time, we were discussing German history, what it meant, and also for what it meant for his family. So we learned something. Germany, I think, later on, also in the 70s, has really worked on its history. But it was very, very moving. I still remember somebody telling you really about family, which you didn't know in your hometown. So you met so many different people, and this was really very important for the rest of my line and life. And so since that time, this is something very important. You learn to put yourself into the shoes of others. So, and looking at world politics today, new populism, authoritarian style governments, polarization in societies, true for Germany, true for other countries, to a certain degree true to the United States. I think this is maybe a lack of what ASSIST stands for, and I think we have to come back to the very basics of this. So maybe one should make it mandatory that people in their junior year in high school go abroad and learn about other countries. As I told you, I worked for 12 years for Chancellor Merkel, and she lived in East Germany. She was 35 when the wall broke down, and she told Congress. I think Senator Hagel was there when she spoke. She said that they had expected, as an East German, they waited actually for the time they were 65, because at 65 East Germany allowed pensioners to leave the country, a bit having the hope that they wouldn't come back and would not, they wouldn't have to pay the pension. So many people, including Chancellor Merkel, they were somehow looking forward to reach 65 because then they could travel. So when the wall broke down in 1989 and it was able to travel for the Chancellor, it was the most important then not to travel to the Netherlands or France or Britain. She went to the US in her first trip, and she went actually to San Diego of all places. But this is something also which you want to do and you need to do, and I think we don't know how privileged we are that we have this possibility thanks to Assist. So coming a bit to today and to today's politics, as I'm a diplomat, as I'm working at the UN, I have to say a few political remarks. First, on the Chancellor. The Chancellor, until today, remains a European. She does believe in globalization, that Europe needs to stick together. Her decision 3 years ago to open the borders when we had the refugees coming from Syria was also something that was value-driven, that was driven that, as a rich country, you cannot close your doors when there are people coming from these countries. Yes. But also for her, and this was also always very important, on the one hand, European integration, on the other hand, transatlantic relations. And this is something discussed with Senator, the Munich Security Conference, where you always have Germany, US, Europe, US working together. These transatlantic relations are something very, very special. And Assist at the beginning was a European American organization. And I think on the basis of shared values in globalization, it is even today, it is very important that the transatlantic relationship stays strong, remains strong, and also continues to be that here. So 47 years after I took Pan Am flight to JFK, I'm back to New York. This time I landed in Newark. And the trip to New York was much longer than it was in '71. You need to build another tunnel there. In January 2019, Germany will become member of the Security Council, and it will be a great experience for Germany. We will try to continue to promote multilateralism. We believe that we need to defend a rules-based international order. After all, this is what our friends also, in particular our American friends, told us after the Second World War. You never violate international law, you stick with law, and you abide by it. So we believe in free trade. We believe that actually the GATT and WTO were very American institutions. America stood for free trade, and I think we should continue to work in the multilateral format and try to, of course, have fair trade, but at the same time have free trade and not start a new protectionism. We believe in the Paris Climate Accord. We'll do everything, and also in the UN, to defend the rules when you see around in the world the global warming, when you see in the US what happened the last days in Florida, before in the Carolinas, when you see worldwide what is happening with the increase of the temperature of the ocean, and therefore also the increased amount of water and the increased speed of the hurricanes, we have to do something. So we continue to work on this. So in the Security Council, we want, and I want as a German ambassador, want to stay by what we learned from ASSIST. Listen to the view of others, put yourself in the shoe of others, try to find solutions on the basis of fair play and on the basis of the respect of human rights and the values which link us. So looking back at 50 successful years of ASSIST, I wish ASSIST all the best for the next 50 years, and I would like to thank everybody who has made this evening possible and all those who have worked for ASSIST during these last years, the board, the volunteers. It's wonderful work that you have been doing, and Bob, thank you very much for having me tonight.